Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight? These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph.
Amen.
Amen. I want to say welcome. I'm Mary Amlaw. This is the Liberty Tea Party Patriots. I always recall that the Tea Party here came about almost 20 years ago. And in the state of Minnesota, we were one of the few states that formed many, many groups. It was the Tea Party Patriot organization that said we need limited constitutional government so we have personal freedom. We have free market economics, so we have economic freedom and prosperity. And we should have financial responsibility, so we have a debt-free future. A lot of us were part of that initial movement. Cindy Pugh is here. My buddy over there. We didn't even know what a BPOU was, and here we are. She eventually ran to be a state representative even, so there was a lot of good that came out of that initial movement. I hope you pick up a brochure on your way out. Those 3 goals and who we are is contained in that brochure. You don't have to do the talking when somebody says something negative about who we are. You just hand them the brochure. So please pick one up on the way out. The people helping us at the monthly meetings here is Jason Tullett, who is the owner of the tavern. Also Alex Erickson, who is the banquets and events manager. And we have Jeremy here, who is the evening manager with us every month. Yeah, give him a round of applause. We're getting there. I have an order. We have Jackie Heinen, who greets you at the door. There's Diana Halsey and Robert Marvin, our videographers. Travis Ekbom, back there, who always brings this gorgeous flag. And our favorite bartender. So we want to thank you for supporting this local business. Please do come back and give them some more business as we go on. And just know that your food and beverage orders in this banquet room are needed in order to keep this room for us and the future service. And please, no side conversations. If you do need to talk, just go on out into the hall and turn off your phones as we get going. Many of us were up in Duluth for the convention. How many of us were there? Yeah, quite a few. Wasn't that an experience? They always are, but I think this one was very unique. But the delegation spoke, and we have some really great endorsed candidates. I'm going to have Frank Long, Carver County activist, come up and give us a recap and put some things into perspective.
Hi folks, is this working? All right. So this would be my take. I always tell you what I think. A lot of people don't like it. Mary, I appreciate the 25 minutes.
25. I'm the timekeeper. 25 minutes, ready to go.
I'm going to have to read through most of this because my days of memorizing a page and a half are over. So, but first of all, we already had a show of hands, but let's have that show of hands again. How many have ever attended a state party endorsing convention? Okay, keep the hands up, keep the hands up now. Keep your hands up if you've ever attended a flawlessly run state party.
Never.
So,
Never, yeah.
now, I've been doing this I've never missed a convention in 20 years. And I've served as a rules chair, I've served as on nominations, I've been a teller, I was the Constitution chair of the state party for 5 years, 2.5 cycles under 2 chairs. So, and I was on state exec for 5 years. So I've been around this and I understand how things work to give you a little bit of perspective. And it is my perspective, but like I said, I have some experience from being there. So, now, I was on the state exec committee when we decided we were going to use the electronic balloting. And there was quite a bit of discussion, quite a bit of research to make sure, and it had been in use around the country for 10 years. And you know, one of the biggest complaints at conventions was how long it took for balloting. And the issue with us wasn't accuracy. The accuracy had been proven across the country. It was the cost. It was expensive. So we had to set that up. So that was going on with that. So, and basically when we did do it with paper, there was always complaints of human error. So there's always a complaint, believe me. You get 2,000 delegates in a room, nothing's good all the time. But, you know, it's because we pay attention and give a crap, and you know what, that's a good quality. So, now after using the technology for multiple conventions without widespread complaint, some now are complaining that the system failed. We have a few losing candidates calling for endorsements to be vacated, alleging that the technology didn't work. Now, I've heard complaints about a 3-hour pause, without mentioning that the vendor used that 3-hour pause to produce a full forensic report. That report identified just 2 anomalies across more than 1,800 devices on the floor. Now, that doesn't include user error, that's just if there were anomalies in the equipment. So, a insignificant amount. I've also heard claims that the vote drop-off after the third place candidate was eliminated, was suspicious. But to anyone who's been a teller or run campaigns, that was not a surprise. Some delegates shift to another candidate, while others choose to just sit it out or take one round off till they get over it. Because people are passionate. So I've seen this before, had nothing to do with the clicker. I've seen this happen when I was doing paper ballots. So throughout the day, there were repeated calls to switch back to the paper ballots, and each time the body voted it down resoundingly, because most of the delegates in that room had used the devices in the past and not had a problem. So there were complaints after the 10-minute window. They said, if you have a problem with your device, you can come right up to here. Nope, the 10 minutes would be over. Then they'd come to the microphone, mine didn't work. Basically, it was, in my opinion, it was clearly an effort to sow doubt on behalf of those losing or eliminated candidates.
Absolutely.
So, also in my opinion, this is a manufactured controversy. I mean, an excuse for some to release themselves from the pledge, with the collateral damage of damaging the party and its dedicated delegate activist base in the process. In some cases purposefully, in some cases just, it doesn't matter, I want what I want, it doesn't matter who it hurts. So, the press immediately jumped on the story, and our party chair made an unauthorized policy announcement that undermined our process. And most of you are probably aware that last night the state exec committee had a meeting, and they all, including the chair, agreed that it was a unauthorized statement, that he doesn't have the power to just change policy, and that we will be supporting all our endorsed candidates.
Amen.
Now, this should be seen for what it is. It's the same self-serving distraction we see most every cycle when a politician loses the endorsement and decides to run the primary anyway. The process wasn't unfair. It wasn't so flawed that it negated the results. There are always complaints and accusations after these conventions. The difference this time is the influence and the connections of the complainers.
Amen.
This false controversy has also revived arguments for a primary system. And many claim that a small number of people are making decisions for 4.5 million Minnesotans, and that's an inaccurate and disingenuous argument. Here's the reality. Of our 4.5 million residents, roughly 3.2 million vote. About half are Democrats, leaving us roughly 1.6 million potential general election voters for the Republican Party. In the primary, where our selection for the general is made, the precision drops down to about 400,000 people who decide who's going to be in the general, that at that point select our candidates for the general election. Now, the roughly 2,000 delegates cited as making the decision are elected by thousands more at the appeal conventions, who themselves were elected by thousands more at precinct caucuses. These are engaged activists who pay close attention to politics They're the backbone of our statewide organization and the people who actually do the work to support and elect our endorsed candidates. A primary system will be driven by a few well-funded groups recruiting candidates primarily on image or name recognition, and it will be primarily a mail and television campaign because they don't have the army of activists we have across this state. And the argument that the regular people don't get to choose, that's just a straw man, because in that system, they'll have little or no ability to interact with these candidates that are put forward in a primary system. Unlike our candidates that you can talk to right now, from now all the way up through, and guess what, when they get elected, you'll be able to talk to them. They'll never be on a pedestal, they won't be beholden to somebody that funded their campaign. We all funded their campaign and did the work to get them elected. So you just gotta ask yourself, do you support grassroots candidates chosen through a representative process, rooted in the Republican form of government like our founders envisioned, or do you prefer a commercially driven selection process funded by a very small donor class? The tie in the House last cycle was largely because of Trump-forced turnout efforts that reached low propensity voters, implemented top to bottom by Minnesota activists. That same model can be replicated to elect our endorsed candidates this cycle if we refuse to be distracted by self-serving complaints amplified by media outlets we can usually trust. The statewide interaction and information we provide is more valuable now than ever. Thanks to the work done last cycle, we have the best data and organizational models we've ever had. I urge you to stay engaged and be part of this process. I'm pretty sure our founders never envisioned marking a piece of paper every couple of years as the full extent of our civic involvement. I hope to see you guys out there. Thank you.
Frank was recently awarded the CD6 Lifetime Achievement Award, which was a wonderful. It was very deserving. What's even more deserving is the award was renamed the Frank Long Lifetime Achievement Award. We always start our meetings formally with an invocation, and I'm going to invite Drew Clapp with Restore Minnesota to come back up and do that again.
Well, thank you all for being here. I don't need to remind you of the crossroads we are at here in Minnesota. This is not about Republican versus Democrat. This is not about conservative versus liberal. We're in a battle of good versus evil, and the soul of the state and country. Paul, in his letter to the church in Ephesus, said, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the rules, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over the present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." Jesus, our master, said, "A house divided against itself will not stand." We as Republicans, conservatives, must come together and unite, or we will have more of the same. I encourage all of us to throw our full support behind our endorsed candidates for the primaries in a couple of months, and then the main election. Right now, we'd like to call all our candidates and their wives to pray for them. And then we will do the pledge. Please stretch your hands out towards them. Heavenly Father, I come before you in the name of Jesus Christ and plead the blood of Jesus Christ over them, their families, and everything you've given them stewardship and authority over. Lead, guide, and direct them in all they do and say as we move toward election time. I pray you surround them with goodness like a shield. I pray you protect them from dysfunction and backbiting within their campaigns and without. I ask and thank you they are fully funded staff, and an army of volunteers, and pray Ernst surround them in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Where's the Jim go out?
We're going to have each of our endorsed candidates speak. I was going 5 for 5 here until Ron Schutz, who's the endorsed candidate for Attorney General, did have to go to a rather big event out in California, so he regrets being here. We'll have his wife Janet come up and speak in a few moments. I'm going to have each candidate come up, and what you'll notice is that each one has either served in our armed services or they still are. And I'm going to start out with Nate George, the endorsed candidate for State Auditor, United States Air Force Reserves.
All right, thank you, Mary. Can everyone see me if I stand down here? Good? All right, perfect. Well, I heard there was a little bit of excitement over the weekend.
We were there.
Sounds like you could use an auditor. With that, I am running for Minnesota State Auditor. And my candidacy for this office is really important. And the reason for that is even more so after this weekend. Because also during the weekend, the DFL had their endorsing convention. And they endorsed a candidate who has 2 of the 3 experience in 2 of the 3 core duties and responsibilities of that office. Local government, and it's not auditing, but he is an accountant, so he understands numbers and finances. That's important, because a big part of why I tell people I'm the most qualified for this role is because I have direct hands-on and executive level experience in all 3 core duties and responsibilities of that office. I'm the only candidate that can compete against their DFL candidate in November. And so it's very important that we get behind this office that we've come so close to winning before in the past and push it over the finish line. And I'm happy to lead the charge in doing that. With that, we're resetting from the convention. Quite the unexpected blowout results on Friday for that. And I want to thank everybody who supported me for their support. Almost 77% of the vote is nothing to be shy about. So I really appreciate that, and it's very humbling. So we are going to push full force ahead. We're focused on November, and so we are building our team. We're resetting our campaign, everything from literature to signage to events. We've got calls and emails coming in left and right. Some of this stuff we're going to be able to get to, some we're not. Okay, but please keep reaching out, letting us know what you got going on. And if you haven't figured it out already, out of the 56 different counties that I've already been to, I will go wherever I need to go if I can make it. So please let us know, and we will do our very best. We've got sign-up sheets over here at the table, and a couple things that you can grab as well, buttons, flags, if you so choose. And then sign up for signage if you want some yard signs or parade signage. We'll get that to you as well. But the biggest thing is fundraising. So whether you, your family, your friends, your neighbors, spread the word. The more we can get support on that, the better, so we can get our message out there to a wider audience. With that, I have to go jump on an online event now, so please enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you all for being here, and thank you for your support.
And our endorsed candidate for Secretary of State is Tad Jude, United States Army Reserves.
Thank you, Mary. And you can tell I've been up in Duluth. Actually, I'd like to thank everyone for their support in Duluth, their support on the campaign trail. We've been touching every corner of Minnesota, and people want change. And Secretary Simon has been there for 12 years, and things have gone downhill. He's been fighting in Washington, actually, the Save America Act. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get that out of Washington. We're going to have to pass our own Save Minnesota Act. But what does that mean? That means in order to vote, you need to be 18, you need to be a resident of Minnesota, you need to be a legal U.S. citizen, you need to be alive. And Steve Simon has had a problem sharing the voting rolls with the Department of Justice. We need to have someone outside the Minnesota bureaucracy that he's built up over 12 years examine the Minnesota voting rolls. And that's what I'll do when I'm Secretary of State. Beyond that, fraud is going to be the issue this November. We have to drive that home. Democrats, independents, Republicans want to make sure that your tax dollars get to the autistic child, or gets to the child that needs food, or gets to the person that needs a home, and not in Kenya. You know, this is something that everybody is behind. And the Walz administration has failed miserably. Now, Senator Klobuchar, Steve Simon are running basement campaigns. We're going to have to draw them out, reveal their records, and we're going to have to go around our media. We're going to have to use alternative media, and we do have the foot power here. And you've been really the backbone of that to get the word out in the suburbs, because the races are going to be won or lost in the suburbs. And we heard Frank refer to Trump Force 47. That was a genius idea, to reach people who are low propensity voters. They have more important things to do. They take care of their families. They're going to work. They're going hunting or fishing. But we need to get that message out. One of the areas where Steve Simon has completely lost touch, and the Democrats in general, is they replaced our historic state flag. And that's something people don't like. You know, 35 cities, 20 counties have rejected flying Steve Simon's flag. We got to get that message out. We will get that message out. And we're going to have a vote on it when I'm Secretary of State. So thank you very much for being here tonight.
Schutz, United States Army, is our endorsed Attorney General candidate. He's unable to be here tonight, but his wife Janet will say a few words on his behalf.
Yeah, you can do the podium. Okay. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Janet Schutz. I'm Ron Schutz's wife. Thank you so much for the support everyone gave us throughout the last several months and at the convention. He was so happy to be endorsed, and we're so glad to be here with the other endorsed candidates. As Mary said, he's out in another state at the Republican Attorneys General convention or meeting out there. They are very excited about this race. They think it's very winnable, and that's great that we're getting some national attention on this. And that's mainly because of the opponent, Keith Ellison. He's a mess.
A little bit.
He has very high unpopular polling. He really made took, as Ron said, turned a blind eye to all the fraud. It's the Attorney General's job to watch over these nonprofits, and he didn't do that. And that's one of the main causes we've had all these frauds over the years. So, as Nate George said, and Tad said, with your help, we need a lot of foot soldiers on the ground helping us out. I'll always need money to make this happen, but we believe we can win in November, so we're going to do it. And I also want to talk about veterans. It was very important. Ron was in the JAG Corps. He didn't get shot at, but a lot of people did. And D-Day is coming up, Flag Day is coming up. I get a little emotional because my son was also in the Army. He did get shot at. I think Adam did too. So let's honor our veterans. Thank you.
And Kendall Qualls is our endorsed candidate for governor of United States Army.
So I'm shorter than Nate, so you guys need to see me in the back. I'm still bald. I think he has more hair than me, though. Here's what we're going to do. Here's one of the things I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure I talk about how we come together as a party and give you a vision for how we're going to get there. How about that?
Good.
I'm not going to talk about the primary or what happened at the convention. All of you guys were there. You know the stories. But I want to give you share a story with you to give you an idea what's our opportunity this year with my background, my candidacy. So when I ran last time for the convention, at the convention, obviously I didn't get it. But at the same time, Sheila, my wife, was doing a report without the news called Chaos in the Classroom.
Yeah.
She was interviewing teachers, parents, students from around the state and getting source information. She did a wonderful job. So proud of her. I just tell you, I just love her to death. And one of her sources actually worked at the teachers union. And so he was in the belly of the beast, or she was in the belly, I can't disclose. He or she was in the belly of the beast. And he or she, I just call them they, because they like using that. They told her that when the convention was held that weekend, that next morning, they showed up to work with a big cake to celebrate that Kendall Qualls didn't get the endorsement because he's the only candidate they were worried about. So fast forward, like Frank said, there's always shenanigans at these things. I abided by the endorsement. I tell you, I had the financial backing to run in the primary, but I gave my word. And I wanted to make sure the party was unified.
Yeah.
Our primaries are too late to fight this out 2 months before the general. So hey, there are things bigger than me. And I'm not saying that to trash him. I'm just saying this is my decision. So fast forward to where we are today. The event was live streamed. I didn't know. I'm on the ward in a different suit or something. I didn't know. So I had lunch today with some people from North Minneapolis saying, they're fighting for you. We're watching these people fight for you. And there are people, the things you're talking about, especially when like Trump, there's a reason why Trump got a lot of black men votes. Because they want jobs. They want independence. They don't want to be stuck in dependency. And these guys are saying, look, man, you're going to get a lot of those guys. All you have, if they just see you, your family, because that's what they want. I said, well, that's why I was a Republican since I was 18 years old. It is this party that provides the freedom and opportunity, and we need to articulate that to the swing voters in a way that's meaningful. And that's what I do. And guys, I am so thankful for your support. Proud to represent the party. Never looked back. Never been a Democrat. They said, well, what about Trump? And I said, look, they're going to make everything about Trump, and we're going to make everything about Minnesota.
Amen.
Everything what they're doing to Minnesota.
Amen.
Okay? Highest taxes, the crime, everything. But I'm not going to shy away. I'll defend Trump. And hey, look, you want 15 million people coming across the border in like 2 weeks?
Nope.
That's what was happening.
Yep.
I'm not afraid to talk about what this president has done to make this country better. I still say, he said, well, I got criticized for saying that Trump saved America, saved our country. He did. Listen,
Yeah.
right now, it could be Kamala Harris as president and Timothy Walls as vice president. Gee whiz, I think we all be packing our bags. You know, so anyway, guys, we have a righteous fight. I am so delighted to fight this righteous fight toward the Democrats. And we have a vision for people that haven't been able to have opportunity in this state. We just need the right leader at the right time. And I thank you for giving me that opportunity. God bless you.
United States Marine and Navy SEAL Adam Schwarze for United States Senate.
It's great to see a lot of people that were at the convention support us, and thank you. I was going to give an update, but my Marine Frank stole all my remarks and updates, so thank you for the thorough wrap-up. I gave a speech there that I think I might actually resonate with the Tea Party Patriots, because 250-year celebration this year, Tea Party Patriots. 1773 kind of started some great things. Right after that was the Intolerable Acts. And so I think some of what I might talk about at the convention would resonate here with you as well. So tell me if this resonates. An army of foreigners stationed in our cities right now, living off the people. Check.
Yeah.
A distant political class taxing us to extinction to serve themselves, not us. Check. Massacres in our streets. Well, they try to take away guns from law-abiding citizens. Check. Like the Intolerable Acts our forefathers suffered, which sparked the American Revolution of 1776, the Wallace-Flanagan oppression has ignited the Minnesota Revolution of 2026. Like us, our forefathers had enough. But like Minnesota, the battles didn't go well at first. We actually lost at Kips Bay, at Fort Washington, at Fort Lee, at Fort Lewis, morale cratered. But then one man, George Washington, put it all on the line and changed American history forever. He crossed the Delaware River at night, on Christmas Eve, in an ice storm, and fought. And how did he do it? Did George Washington succeed by giving up on his gun rights?
No.
Did George Washington succeed by negotiating with the politicians who were putting foreigners over Americans?
No.
No. He did it by fighting and leading from the front lines. And so Minnesota, we face an existential crisis, a no-fail mission against radical extremists who sacrifice your freedoms at the altar of wokeness, against an invading horde who defraud you of billions and weak leaders who let them, and against an establishment DC class, including Republicans in the United States Senate, who won't even work to pass the Save America Act to secure your elections. A law 87% of Americans support. In our time, we have seen what weak leadership can do to a strong country. We've also seen what a warrior can do. I've lived the difference. I've fought under terrible leaders, Biden, Obama. But I've also fought under great leaders, like my 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief and our great President, Donald J. Trump. Under his leadership, America is back on top. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. Federal agents who enforce our laws, a fortified border, the largest drop in American drug prices in history, and a military that's strong and proud to serve once again. This is a man who has taken bullets for us. Bullets. And yet, like George Washington, President Trump can't do it alone any more than he could. We don't need more champagne Republicans in DC who blush every time the president tweets. We need fighters watching his back, getting his six, and charging the hill to support his agendas. And ladies and gentlemen, that is why I stand before you tonight seeking your vote for the United States Senate. If you want a smooth-talking politician, there are other options. And I'm going to be blunt. If you want the DC establishment, you're happy with Washington right now, they're providing that option. There's that option too. But if you want a fighter who specializes in no-fail missions, who doesn't know how to quit, who doesn't lead by reading the polls, but abides in his faith in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and will work like hell when the mission demands it, I ask for your vote. I know who I am. I'm only on this planet speaking to you tonight because my mom chose life and adoption and sacrificed and endured so I could have a shot. I was raised in a 1-bathroom, 2-bedroom house in Bloomington by a loving adopted family that shaped me. I hunt, I fish, I'm a lifelong member of the NRA, and I too have been a fighter for you on the front lines my whole life. But none of that will define my time in the U.S. Senate. You see, my time isn't even defined by me at all, actually. It's defined by you. Ladies and gentlemen, I know our backs are against the wall in this cycle. All of us up here on the stage realize it. Just like our earlier forefathers who lost battle after battle. We've lost election after election. We haven't won a statewide in 20 years. I get it. But this is the time we cross the Delaware. This is when we turn the tide. Minnesotans are sick and tired of being embarrassed nationally of the Wallses, the Flanagans, the social radicals on the left. But we will win because we are on the side of God. Because we fight faith first. And when we win, we are going to D.C. to fight. We will fight these criminal fraudsters and the corrupt politicians who bought elections with your stolen tax dollars. We will fight the socialists in the schools. We will fight the communists in our communities. We will fight for our churches, for our family, and to reclaim the dignity and the morale of our great state. And together, we will fight to secure the spirit of liberty for you, for your family, for our future. God bless you, Minnesota Tea Party Patriots. God bless our troops downrange, and God bless the United States of America.
I told him that was pretty good. You know, someone else that got their start with the Tea Party is Walter Hudson. He is now one of our best state representatives. And Walter, I asked him if he would give us a brief overview of some of the fraud issues in Minnesota that were dealt with in this last legislative session and where we're at, maybe where we're going with them. So please welcome State Representative Walter Hudson.
So wait a minute, you asked me to do an overview. I don't remember you saying brief. I just want to start off, it's a little bit off topic, but I just want to make a public apology. Tad, I'm sorry that I challenged you to an arm wrestling contest. Praying for your full recovery. So just so you know, I had intentions to do this a little bit more intentionally. I actually did a bunch of research before I came here tonight about, what actually happened. What do I not remember about what happened during the legislative session? And I had it all out. I had like bullet points and sub-points, and I printed it out, and then I forgot to bring it. So you're going to get the unscripted, off-the-cuff, poor man's version of a legislative update. That's all right.
Yeah, we'll take that.
So I think it's important to remember, and this has been such a wild ride, especially from my perspective, I'm sure from yours as well, but from my perspective, literally being on the front row, like I literally sit on the front row of the House chamber, watching what has taken place over the last 4 years, and of course, we all know what's happened years prior to that. Because this whole fraud conversation didn't start this year, right? It was catapulted in December of last year, and I'll get to that in a second. But this is something that people like my dear friend Mary Franson have been talking about since at least 2019, 2018, 2017. Ringing the bell saying this isn't working, something's wrong here, there are red flags, and being completely dismissed as a crazy Looney Tune, right? Which, sometimes Mary does sound like that. You can let her know that. But she was right. She was 100% correct about the risks and about what was happening. And she wasn't taken seriously. And no Republican who talked about fraud was taken seriously. I remember when I first came in 2023, I was on something called the Children and Families Committee. Which, even the fact that that's a thing that exists. So Dave Pinto was the chair. This was under the trifecta. And we would talk about fraud because in the children and family space, that's something that's pretty relevant, right? Like we all remember Feeding Our Future, $250 million worth of fraud. And let's just pause to reflect upon the exact type of fraud. People taking money from you that is supposed to feed children. And shamelessly, without any apparent concern of being held accountable for it, going on vacations, buying luxury cars, buying mansions, and they weren't even, like, here, this is my frustration. Sometimes every once in a while, I'll check myself and I'll be like, maybe I chose the wrong path by being a good person. Because if I was going to do that, like, my stuff would be in crypto, it would be offshore, it would be like 3 degrees separated in different entities, you'd never be able to track it or find it, you'd never catch me if I was the one who was actually doing that. I just didn't think of it, right? And I also wouldn't do it. But these people were so brazen that they were willing to, yeah, I'll put my name on the contract for the car that I bought with money that's supposed to go to kids. Unbelievable amount of brazenness. And then anytime they got challenged throughout the years, you probably recall the Keith Ellison audio where he's talking to the Feeding Our Future people. If you haven't listened to that whole thing, please, whatever drive you have tonight, if it's, more than half an hour, listen to that. It is incredibly illuminating to get inside the minds and the souls of the people who are willing to do this. Because there's very clearly no sense of responsibility whatsoever. No sense of shame, no hesitation. How do we get paid? And the second anybody raises any questions, it's, "You're racist," which I'm pretty sure is the first English word they're taught when they get off the boat. Right?
True.
Here's your gold card that's going to be able to get you through any difficulty. I mean, we just saw what happened in the UK, right? With this poor kid. I can't even think about it. So what did we do this year in order to address this? Well, first of all, I think we need to give credit where credit is due. The strange thing about this job is sometimes you stand in a moment of history and you don't even know you're standing in it until afterwards. And that's what happened in December of last year. I was at a House Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee hearing, and this kid, this young-looking, scrappy kid, came up to me afterwards and started asking me questions, wanted to do an interview on his phone that his mom was holding. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. And so I talked to him for about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, had a great conversation. And then I'm like, so what's your name? He's like, Nick Shirley. All right, what's your deal? Oh, I got a YouTube channel, I'm on X. I'm like, cool, I'll check it out. And so I checked it out, I followed him, I messaged him, thanks for coming out, blah, 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 didn't think anything of it. 1 week later, he is at the top of the world, right? He's blowing it all up. And as much criticism and hostility as he has taken, that kid, and we need to value our youth. When you see these TPUSA kids, like at the convention or at your local BPOU, they are the future. Yeah. I know we look around the room and we see a lot of, no offense, gray hairs, right? I'm getting there myself. I'm closer to the senior Republicans than I am to the young Republicans at this point. There's only a 10-year gap. But the future is there. They might not be showing up in this room, but they're on the streets, and they're at their campuses, and they're making things happen. And Nick Shirley is cut from that cloth. He did the thing that nobody else thought to do, which is one of the things that I thought was so hilarious about the Democrats. I don't know if you guys caught this. I was in a committee hearing, and I had an anti-fraud bill, and they decided that the best tactic to push against it was to bring up Nick Shirley and accuse the House Republican caucus of having sicked a criminal trespasser on all these innocent child cares, right? Innocent child cares, which just happened to be indicted later in a massive couple dozen account fraud accusation. But be that as it may, their whole thing is this. How could you guys do this? How could you send a kid to do this. And my point was, have you met a Republican? Like, do you actually think that the Republican Party of Minnesota or the House Republican Caucus would sit there and be like, I know what we should do, something innovative and effective? Okay? We had nothing to do with that. Like, we answered his questions, our staff answered his questions, or more specifically, David Hawk's questions, the guy who was with him, the older gentleman who did the research and the investigation. But they did the work. That was all them who brought that to light. And thank God that they did, because what it triggered was the national scrutiny that we have been pining for and asking for years and could not get.
Yes.
Until Donald Trump became the 47th president of the United States, with J.D. Vance, Kash Patel, and these folks who took the problem seriously and are continuing to take the problem seriously.
Amen.
So thank God for all of that. What happened on the state level? We were able to pass this thing called the Office of Inspector General. And the way this thing is going to work is it is, I'm getting the signal, so I'll keep this short. It's somebody who is going to be selected by the governor, but only from a list of people who have been vetted by the legislature and has to be confirmed by the Senate. So you have true independence in this office. Somebody who is not going to be beholden to Tim Walz or whoever's in there next, whether it's one of ours or one of theirs. And that's a good thing, because what has been lacking through this whole process is any sort of accountability, not for the perpetrators. That's nothing. That's surface level. But the people who administered the agencies, the people who created the policy, the people who failed to acknowledge the red flags and even threatened those who did.
Yeah.
We need to see handcuffs. And thanks to the working House Republicans this year, perhaps we eventually will. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming here. I know you've got such busy schedules, but it was really important to have all of you here tonight. And you know that as candidates, you're welcome anytime. Remember, we meet the first Thursday of every month except July. You just have to drop in and we'll make time for you to speak, okay? All right, it's an open invitation. Out on the entry table, the welcome table, is an acrylic frame that has printed out the endorsed candidate websites. Take a photo of it, go to it, you can donate, you can find out their calendars, you can contact them. They need your time, they need any resource that you have. And that is the secret to the success, is if we come out in numbers and support these good people. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to go now to our main speaker, Bonnie Gasper. We've known each other for quite a while with the Child Protection League. She has written a monthly news column about issues as understood through the biblical lens of Scripture. She currently serves as chair of the Child Protection League, whose mission is to protect children from exploitation, violence, and indoctrination. She will be giving a presentation today called The Shallow Brain: Why American Middle Schoolers Are Losing Their Ability to Learn to Read. She's going to share evidence and concerns that screen learning is a primary cause of the growing cognitive decline in our kids. And we know that. I even know that from just adult learning. It's very tactile. If you can read a book, if you can hold it in your hand, if you can do it, you learn. That's the way we're actually wired. So, you're there. Are you ready to go? All right, let's do it. All right, please welcome Bonnie Gasper.
Thanks for bearing with me. thank you to Jeremy. I am not techie. Special thank you to Jeremy. I am not techie. Well, good evening, everybody. It's so good to be here. It is an honor to be with such an amazing group of Patriots, and it was really great to hear from the great bench that the Republicans do have for this next election. So as they say, vote early and vote often. Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a presentation, as Mary mentioned. She was at our spectacular Join the Movement conference in April. The speaker lineup still kind of blows me away that we had there. The outstanding Liz Collin, she was the MC for us. Dr. Michelle Cretella discussed how to protect youth from trans ideology. Mark Trammell is from Harmeet Dillon's law firm that she founded called the Center for American Liberty. And she spoke on how to he spoke on dismantling the gender industrial complex one lawsuit at a time. Alvin Louie, the president and founder of Courage is a Habit, taught us how to defeat the psychology of offense. And Mel K from the Mel K Show revealed how the global cabal is working against us with her presentation on Education International Agenda 2030 and our kids. And the great Laura Logan, she's a world-renowned investigative journalist. She delivered a powerful keynote asking us how much time do we have left. It was by far the biggest event we've ever taken on, for sure. But the goal of the conference was simply just to educate, equip, and inspire everyone to join the movement to protect children, because it's something we shall be able to unify around, right? No matter what our differences are, because we all can do something. But Mary was there, and she heard our presentation on the shallow brain and asked that I would present it again tonight. So I'm happy to do it, because I think what's going on in the brain development of our kids is a very, very serious issue. So tonight is going to be a warning. There's obvious concerns, as she mentioned, with the amount of time our children are spending online, both in school and out of school, but I'm also going to provide some solutions at the end, so it isn't all going to be bad, but there's a lot of warning here, just let you know. So obviously the internet, we know, is filled with readily recognizable dangers such as online predators, CSAM, which is child sexual abuse imagery, AI-generated imagery now, chat rooms, influencers, there's body dysphoria, discontentment, sextortion, grooming, dangerous TikTok challenges. All of these things create obviously dangerous environments for our immature and impressionable children and young people, but the screen learning, educating children via screens and devices is something that has been less obvious, but frankly it's frankly been ignored for a long time. But it's proven to be extremely harmful and dangerous in its own way. Research is pouring in that it's significantly inferior to old school textbook reading, writing, discussion. It's flying directly in the face of what we've all been told in the last 10 years too, right? We're all told that everything has to be tech. But what they're finding is that screen learning is actually changing our children's brains. It actually changes their development. It disrupts gross motor development. It changes how their permanent neurological pathways are formed. It changes how our brains process and interpret information. And some of kids have said that kids are actually developing what they call smooth brains. But I want you to hear this testimony from Dr. Jared Cooney. He testified before Congress in January on this very subject.
My name is Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath. I'm a former teacher turned cognitive neuroscientist who focuses on human learning. And I do not receive funding, nor have I ever, from big tech. So a sad fact our generation has to face is this. Our kids are less cognitively capable than we were at their age. Every generation has outperformed their parents, and that's exactly what we want. We want sharper kids. And the reason for this largely has been school. Each generation spends more time in school. We use school to develop our cognition until Gen Z. Gen Z is the first generation in modern history to underperform us on basically every cognitive measure we have, from basic attention to memory to literacy to numeracy to executive functioning to even general IQ, even though they go to more school than we do. So why? What happened? What happened around 2010 that decoupled schooling from cognitive development? It can't be school. Schools basically look the same. It can't be biology. This hasn't had time to change. The answer appears to be the tools we are using within schools to drive that. Across 80 countries, as Jean was just saying, if you look at the data, once countries adopt digital technology widely in schools, performance goes down significantly. To the point where kids who use computers about 5 hours per day in school for learning purposes will score over 2/3 of a standard deviation less than kids who rarely or never touch tech at school. And that's across 80 countries. Bring it home to the US. Let's go to the US. We have our NAEP. That's our big data. Take any state. Here's a fun experiment you can try. Take any state NAEP data. Compare that to when that state adopted one-to-one technology widely, and watch what happens. The NAEP data will plateau and then start to drop. And of course, this is all correlative. What we really want is causative. To get causation, what you need is academic research, and you need mechanisms, explanations for why we're seeing what we're seeing. Luckily, we have academic research stretching back to 1962 that shows the exact same story for 60 years. When tech enters education, learning goes down. In fact, because what do kids do on computers? They skim. So rather than determining what do we want our children to do and gearing education towards that, you're redefining education to better suit the tool. That's not progress, that is surrender. So as we go through our discussion today, there's going to be a lot of talk about smartphones and social media, rightly so. But I'm the voice here to remind you that even in schools, it doesn't matter what the size of the screen is. If it's a phone, if it's a laptop, if it's a desktop, and it doesn't matter who bought it. Is it school sanctioned? Does it have the word education stamped on it? It doesn't matter. All of these things are also going to hurt learning, which in turn are going to hurt our kids' cognitive development, right at the time when we need our kids to be sharper than we are.
So that's a pretty stark warning, but he said a couple of things that I think we need to really take to heart. First, he said that we're redefining education to better suit the tool. And he also said that technology doesn't suddenly become beneficial or good just because it's being done in school on a laptop, right? Just because the educational label is slapped on it. The technology itself is the inherent problem, because that's what's changing our kids' brains. Now, he mentioned the NAEP report card. I don't know if you can see that, all right. But this NAEP is just one measurement of what's pointing to what might be going on in it. Like, this is the one from Minnesota. So our 4th and 8th grade NAEP scores in reading and math began a catastrophic decline in 2017, and they show no signs of recovering. There's obviously more factors that are contributing to this decline. You know, the educational cartel abandoned phonics decades ago. You know, academic instruction has been replaced with the psychosocial behavioral therapy called social emotional learning, and of course the fixation on equity-based teaching, you know, aiming for equal outcomes rather than equal opportunities. It always drags the entire operation down. But in Minnesota right now, just 31% of 4th graders were reading at grade level, and 39% were below grade level. For 8th graders, it doesn't look much better. 28% were reading at the NAEP grade level, which was the lowest on record, and 29% were below grade level, which was the highest on record. Yet we face these never-ending school referendums, right, tech referendums, higher property taxes for a system that is failing our children. And Walz and his administration clearly have demonstrably failed Minnesota kids and families. And considering what we're paying for our current public education system, they're not demonstrating results, success, or good stewardship of our tax dollars. So how bad is the reading deficit? Well, I want you to listen to this montage of clips that I spliced together from a YouTuber. Her channel is called A Homestead Journey, who's collecting these testimonies from teachers, many of whom are quitting mid-year, which I guess is really kind of a shocking thing for a teacher to do. If I remember correctly, she said in America last year about 300,000 teachers quit mid-year. They left their jobs in the middle of the school year due to total burnout, frustration, lack of support from the administration. Now this is a little bit of an extended clip, but I want you to hear directly from these teachers because it's powerful what they're saying.
So if you're a fellow high school teacher, I need to know if you are also experiencing this in the classroom. And I think it is one of the big issues that I'm starting to see with kids and school just in general right now. And I had multiple students that when it came to the assignment part, they just didn't do it. And I would ask them, like, why are you not doing it? And they're like, well, I don't understand it. I was like, okay, what don't you understand? And they're like, I don't know where to find the answers. I was like, well, did you click on a website? And they're like, oh. And then they click on the website, and then they start scrolling up, oh, this is too much, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, it's too much reading. I'm not going to do it. What?
Time to bring back notebooks, real notebooks. I don't know where your kids go to school, but I cannot do this Chromebook bullshit anymore. My child does not learn by reading on a computer. My child does not learn by taking quizzes on a computer. My child does not learn by just working in a computer 24/7. I understand the need to teach technology to this next generation, I really do. But I think we have lost a lot of what made us great before. Like, I don't know, writing, because my kid doesn't know how to write. He's 11. He can barely write. Typing and writing are two different things. Do not try to tell me that they are the same thing. Our kids need to write to remember things. Some people need to read to remember things. Some people need to speak to remember things. There are different ways to learn, and we are just shoving a screen in front of our kids and expecting them to be smart. And I will tell you something, I see a lot of kids as a mother. They are not very bright. Nope, not even a little bit.
So if you don't know, I teach high school English, English 1 and English 3 specifically. And my biggest pet peeve right now, and I've seen it become such a problem lately, is, let's say I give out a quiz to my kids, and there's a passage or something they have to read on said quiz. And the questions are about the thing that they have to read. So the answers are in the passage. They take the quiz. They don't do great. I feel like I failed as a teacher. I feel bad, so I sit down with them. Buddy, why'd you struggle on this quiz? What was hard about it? What was difficult? What'd you find hard to understand? And they look me dead in my eyes and they say, I'll be honest, I didn't read the passage. What do you mean you didn't read the passage? That's step 1. And they're like, well, I read the first paragraph and it was really long, so I didn't read the rest. Oh my gosh, just read it. And you're like, yeah, but it's a lot. But you're gonna fail if you don't. Yeah, but I'll be okay. Like, it's just a regular grade. I'm trying to give it to you. Just read the passage. That's my new pet peeve this year, is kids just won't read it. And they'll just guess on the questions and then they go, whoops, I failed. That's what they do.
I need to go off for a second. I just had a really enlightening conversation with my first block about what they think about the cheating, about the AI use, and I want to go off for a second and tell you guys what they told me. And I wanted to ask them why. I asked them, show of hands, first question, show of hands, how many of you have either used AI to cheat or know someone who used AI to cheat? Every hand goes up. It's like 90% of them.
So our district now is going to tier 1. So we cannot differentiate. We cannot give the child what they need. I teach 4th grade. I have 2 kids at a kindergarten reading level. I have about 4 kids at a 1st grade reading level. And they're telling me that I have to teach this 4th grade curriculum that these kids can't even read. Like back in the day, it's like, teachers are like, okay, turn to page 47 and read this and answer the questions. They can't read the material. But I am not allowed to give them material that is at their level. So they sit there. Also, our wonderful curriculum we have, maybe we'll go into that on a different post if this is, I know my content is all over the place. There's no reading groups. There's no reading groups. So we just do our whole group lesson, and they do these things that they can't do. So I give these assignments, and I'm like, hey, use this text compared to this text, and use this figurative language. So they're not able to do it. So what happens is when it's not at the right level, you get behaviors. You get them feeling horrible about themselves. You get them feeling like they're not smart. You get them feeling like they're isolated and that they are alone because you're asking them to do this thing that they can't do.
I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of those on the internet, you guys. So it was really, really, it's heartbreaking actually to see these teachers that are, you know, they really have a heart for the kids they want to teach, but the kids can't read. But these are kids that have grown up in the classroom, right? They've been using screens all along. Now my kids graduated from high school about 11 years ago. That was the first year Chromebooks were brought into their classroom, and it really changed their class. But prior to that, it was all old school. It was reading, textbooks, discussion, you know, written quizzes, taking notes. Now kids are on screens long before preschool. The next few slides were taken from a recent teacher survey conducted by Education Week. Now that's not they're not a conservative publication group at all. They self-reported what they're seeing in class, how screen use has negatively impacted the cognitive, emotional, and physical development of their preschoolers. This teacher says, I've taught 4-year-olds for over 20 years and the changes are definitely there. They don't know how to do things for themselves or to even try. Some do, but more don't than in years past. They come to school unable to use a crayon or scissors. Many of our children are given a phone or tablet to keep them quiet. We noticed back in August when we got out tablets, the kids would cry when it was time to put them away. We did not get them out again after that because their tantrums were not worth the 15 minutes of quiet time that it gave us. I'm seeing significant decrease in fine motor skills. Half of my class has infant to toddler level fine motor abilities. And this one said preschoolers and toddlers are unable to manipulate their fingers, hands, and hand-eye coordination skills, largely due to lack of use. Over the last 6 to 8 years, an increase in tablet use has made interaction and child entertainment options available that require no muscle building. So let's take a quick look at the middle schoolers. Dr. Cooney said they spend about 5 hours a day on devices in school. Well, if you add that to their after-school hours, this is what their average daily screen time looks like today. 12 hours a day in front of screens. They might be awake for 16, but they spend 12 of them on screens. In early this February, the University of North Carolina did a study. They were tracking middle schoolers, and they were tracking their phones, and they highlighted some really startling research. They found what they call a compulsive engagement problem during school hours, meaning the students were constantly checking their phones throughout the school day. They found that the constant checking resulted in some obvious things, right? Fragmented attention, attention deficit, weakened self-control, a massive disruption in the instructional time, and of course the constant entertainment factor. These dopamine hits every 15 seconds. Now this is actually retraining the brain, right? It's reorienting the brain, how it's developing and how it's processing information. The average student checked their device 64 times during school hours. That's the average. The frequent pickups or check-ins linked to the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for the deep focus and impulse control. And then the constant social media was conditioning the brain. It does condition the brain to become hypersensitive to these social award systems. It undermines the ability to engage in goal-directed learning. And sadly, many of these notifications were coming from guess who? The parents. Frequently texting their kids during school hours. Parents, you gotta stop that. I'm guilty, I've done it. The researchers were actually shocked though by their own findings. Middle schoolers spent nearly 1/3 of their school day, about 20 minutes of every hour, on their phones, even during active instruction. So 1/3 of their school day, and they weren't going to other websites for deeper learning either, you guys. 70% of that time was spent just checking in on social media and entertainment. Those going through those mindless reels of people doing and saying stupid stuff. So some have claimed our kids are smarter because they have all these random data points now at their fingertips. But all of these visual bursts of information, they're having the opposite effect on their minds. It's actually slowing their minds down. Now, Dr. Cooney said in the earlier clip, he called skimming. What did he actually mean by that? He says, well, what they're doing, and you heard from the teachers, they're just skipping what they don't understand or enjoy. The skimming directly impacts all the language centers of the brain. It reduces the reading stamina. It creates shorter attention spans. It means they don't have the wherewithal to stick with the difficult or complex text. We heard that from those teachers. They're unable to grasp abstract thought from the concrete, and their vocabulary is shrinking significantly. Teachers are reporting a widening gap in the use of more sophisticated tier 2 words, which then of course contributes to the ever-expanding comprehension gap in the cognitive offloading, which just means the students now have shifted from viewing information that they view it as something to be found on the internet rather than something to be known, to be learned. Why remember to write it down if you can just look it up tomorrow?
Are you talking to the microphone?
Oh, sorry. So speaking of writing, Mary mentioned this, a 2024 study out of Norway showed that the print or cursive handwriting, it triggered elaborate brain activity and connectivity patterns across multiple language areas, including memory retention, conceptual understanding, and imaginary visualization. So literally the brain is lighting up when you're tactile and you're touching a book and flipping pages and kind of filing in your mind where things are. When they tested the brain, when they were doing the scans on just repetitive typing, it showed significantly less brain stimulation. So then let's take a quick look at the college kids. How are they doing? Now they've been immersed in screens and phones and video games and on-screen learning for the last decade too. Well, a college professor of 30 years who writes a really popular Substack described his average college student back in 2025. He said they're functionally illiterate. Reading bores them. Their writing skills are profoundly abysmal. He said spelling is atrocious, grammar is random, the correct use of apostrophes is cause for celebration. Worse is the resistance to original thought. He said the reflexive submission of the cheapest cliche they view as a novel insight. Another writer described the difference between functional literacy and cultural literacy. Functional simply means you can decode words. You could read a road sign, a news headline, a text message. But cultural literacy is something entirely different. It means you and your neighbor, people you're sitting with at your table, your culture possesses this shared knowledge base, references and allusions and stories that allow you to participate fully in your own civilization's conversations. So when someone says the writing on the wall, we know that came from the book of Daniel. If they say that's really Orwellian, they've actually read Orwell and they understand what that intones. But we've created a system right now that's very good at producing workers, yet very bad at producing educated people. So the result is this really peculiar kind of ignorance. They're efficient widget builders and button pushers, but they're not thinkers. How are we doing as a nation when it comes to reading? Well, in 2012, 27% of students said they read for fun almost every day. By 2023, that dropped to 14%. 25% of American adults haven't read a single book, in whole or in part, in the past year. And over 130 million American adults score at or below the second lowest level on international literacy assessments. And the percentage scoring at or below the lowest level of literacy has jumped from 19% in 2017 to 28% in 2023. But back to the college professor. He wrote that students cheat all the time. We heard that from the high school teacher too. He said they use AI to write their papers because they won't read the material. He describes them as checked out, phone addicted zombies. They can't make it an hour without getting their phone fixed, which means they rarely sit through an entire class. They leave to go check their phones and they often don't bother to come back. So the disengagement has to relate, I think, to the fact too that now, I don't know if you all knew this. This I did not know until I looked it up, but only 6 states now require high school seniors to pass an exit exam to graduate. That's been done in the name of equity. High schools have adopted no-fail policies and have abandoned all standardized testing. And just like magic, school districts are reporting record high graduation rates across all demographics. They call it success. We wrote about this a few months ago. We called the high school diploma the New Participation Award. But it's really a scam when you think about it. I mean, talk about the soft bigotry of low expectations. But that's what equity looks like in practice. So how bad is it? Well, this one's a little bit more on the humorous side, but it's still kind of hopelessly sad. But our kids are they really being dumbed down? I hope to hear this one too.
How many seasons there are?
12. I don't know. 12?
Yes. What language do the people in Idaho speak?
Potato.
Wait, what? What language?
I don't know. The first thing that came to mind was potatoes.
How many states make up the United States? Guess a number. 5. Yes. What continent are we on right now?
What continent? I think like North Africa.
What's 3 times 3 times 3? 18. Yes. How many cents are in $1?
How many cents are $1?
Yeah.
1, 5, 10, 20, 30, 100 cents.
Yes. Do you know what country we gained our independence from?
Mexico, right? No, that's so wrong. No. I don't know.
Give me a final guess.
Canada.
Yes. Do you know what year the U.S. was founded?
1827.
Yes. It's a shape with 4 sides called.
I don't know. I haven't done something with shape since like 5th grade.
Yeah. If you had a guess.
I don't know. Like I know what shapes have 4 sides, but I don't know the name for it.
Yes. Can you name 3 countries besides the USA?
Alabama.
That's 1.
New Mexico.
2.
And Connecticut.
3. It's too easy for you. What is 1 quarter plus 2 dimes?
1 quarter plus 2.
How much money is that?
That's 65 cents. Is it? 65 cents?
Yes. Can you tell me what time this is?
Okay, I know the long one is an hour.
Yeah.
So that's 10. Oh my god.
I mean, it's funny, but it's really sad, right? But the internet's filled with this, you guys. I mean, this podcaster, obviously, he picked some of the more egregious examples, but I think the fact there's any like this, because those questions were not difficult. Not a single question was difficult. That is shocking to me. But these kids are clueless. They don't even know what they don't know. But this dumbing down of America's kids, this obsession with flickering screens and entertainment, it makes me think of the movie WALL-E. Hopefully you guys all saw that, but that came out in 2008, but one of the more memorable scenes is when the humans had lost all their initiative. They just evolved into these gelatinous bodies with no muscle mass, and they were content to ride around their hover chairs and watch their screens because technology provided all their entertainment. Well, it's been said Hollywood has been engaged with predictive programming all along, right? Kind of makes one wonder. But there's another side of this techno-learning. When there's no textbooks for parents to review, when our children are engaging with the screen and AI, not only is the method dumbing them down, it's fully indoctrinating them too. Earlier I mentioned SEL, social emotional learning. Well, that's an equity-based assessment that has infiltrated basically every school in America, where academic instruction has been replaced with emotional character building, feeling-based assessments, and data collection on our kids. Now, Portrait of a Graduate, or POG, is SEL on steroids. Children are interacting privately with AI. This program framework is everywhere in Minnesota schools. POG coaches and steers children toward what SEL and POG have determined are desirable attitudes, values, and beliefs. Now again, it's not testing for academic knowledge, but instead pushing them toward POG's desired worldview. Everything they say is sent to this giant server farm. It's evaluated with other responses, and then prompts are individualized and sent back to keep steering that child toward the ideal student that they want. In their material, they actually say they're preparing kids to have the right mindset for college. So a podcaster fed a POG transcript into Grok, asking for an assessment. Grok named POG the soul scanner and rated its danger assessment level as high, and correctly identified many major areas of concern. Obviously, there's privacy and data security risks, algorithmic bias, and inaccuracy leading to unfair labeling. It's an erosion of human judgment and teacher autonomy, psychological harm and surveillance effects, diminished critical thinking and creativity, and unintended, what Grok called it, societal control. We would call that a social credit system. Grok said the harms were systemic, long-term, and difficult to reverse. Mitigation would require rigorous independent audits, outputs, transparency, and human oversight. So one of the world's most powerful AI engines is warning parents that one of the world's most powerful school AI assessments tools is extremely dangerous for children. We have a lot more information on our website about POG, but the end game of POG is to, again, to shape, coerce, and coach kids to fit into a mold, this correct mindset with the correct values, attitudes, and beliefs. And it's all being done on a screen privately, not even in the classroom. So this is not freedom of thought or real learning, it's indoctrination, full stop. And it's a top-down driven system now too. The AASA, which is the American Association of Superintendents, they've partnered with Battelle, which is a company that created POG, and their plans are now to roll it out into every school. But does anything look familiar with the cover of their January issue? I mean, where have we seen the raised fist before? It's the classic symbol of socialist and communist resistance. I mean, they don't even try to hide it. This is revolution, and it's being pushed into all of our schools. Because the educational cartel, from the ALA to the NEA to teacher certification to curriculum, all of it's been overrun with open Marxists and people who have been trained in Marxist ideologies. Now take a look at this Rethinking School publication called Teachers, Unions, and Social Justice. Listen to some of the endorsements. Bettina Love, she's the founder of the Abolitionist Teaching Network. She says, the fight for justice, the fight for educational justice is packed with ideas, strategies, and the voices of change from across the nation, from people who are protesting, marching, striking, organizing, creating, and demanding the schools our students deserve. Becky Pringle is the current president of the NEA. She said it challenges us to do more by putting social justice and anti-racism at the center of our classroom and our teacher unions. Randy Weingarten is the president of the American Federation of Teachers. She said this book is necessary for the reflection, debate, visioning, and organizing that will move our public schools to the central place they must occupy in a democracy. And then Zakia Ansari, she's the director of the New York State Alliance for Quality Education. She said this book highlights the paradigm shifts, challenges, and victories that are vital for the next generation of grassroots organizers, educators, students, and parents, if we're ever going to dismantle the educational racism that exists. Well, that's a lot of revolutionary language, but what didn't you hear? Did we hear anything about goals and plans to raise academic standards and scholars? Only activists, because this is exactly what they want. An uneducated populace is easy to control and manipulate. They become predictable and controllable activists. So that's a topic for another presentation, but be certain the cultural Marxists are using technology to further their propaganda campaign to capture the hearts and minds of our kids, because they knew that the center of any revolution was not the economy, not economic, but cultural. So they began the long march through our schools, starting with the, and just to turn out kids with Marxist values and mindsets so they would become the change agents of their own destruction. And it's been an inside job to overthrow our nation, Western civilization, and our Christian heritage. And again, our website's got a lot of information on this for you. So that's the warning. I know it sounds pretty dire. Our kids are being dumbed down. Their brains are increasingly unable to function, think, and develop properly to learn to read. So America's not going to survive if future generations of kids all have what we call shallow brains. They're not going to be leaders. They're going to be controlled masses ripe for tyranny. And I don't think that's hyperbole, because those who cannot read cannot lead. So what must we do right now? Well, the first thing you all gotta do, everybody's gotta do, is prioritize print preservation. Build a library of great and classic books. Get old publication dates too, because the censorship knives of the DEI, CRT crowd, they have been methodically stripping literature of its historical language because they found it offensive. And challenge the one-to-one fallacy in all of your school districts. That simply means that they say every student must have a mobile computing device to be productive, to be successful. Challenge that assumption, because that is not true. The tech is actually dangerous for our kids. Don't let kids have cell phones in the classroom. Don't text your kid when they're in school. Encourage boredom. We used to call this daydreaming. Doom scrolling, entertainment, and dopamine hits prime the brain for that constant stimulation, but moments of thinking and contemplation, that's produced some of the most significant advances in ideas we've ever known. Because the human imagination really is unlimited. But when every moment's just distracted by a flickering screen, we're no longer processing, we're just watching. That's very passive. And teach your littles to read and write. That is so easy, you guys. Just get phonics, phonic books. They can learn using phonics and form their letters and words by hand. So easy. Delay access to devices, and understand that all the tech bros like Zuckerberg, Gates, and Jobs, they kept their kids off screens and devices. So what does that tell you? Put the phone down and pick up a book. Get your kids outside moving, exploring, collecting, playing. Leave the phones behind. Discourage the I must document everything culture as well. That's a whole nother pathology that we could talk about. Practice it yourself. And then carve out phone-free days for your family. Protect those, because our kids are really watching what we do. So we have to stop allowing this, and we need more of this. More sandlots, more engagement, learning, and experiencing, and real adventures. So honestly, you know, the solution is actually simple, right? It's just stop using the devices, stop using those as a main form of education. It's just the implementation is going to be difficult, because let's face it, I bet you every single person in this room has a phone. And we probably checked it a couple of times here while I've been speaking, right? I mean, it's just, it becomes a habit. So it's gonna feel like this for sure. Pulling a boulder or pushing a boulder uphill, but we're used to this, you guys. This is our MO. We're all used to doing the hard work. So if we want to save our country, we need to save our children, and we need to help them become readers and thinkers. Because right now, the writing is on the wall. The educational cartel wants to indoctrinate them, not educate them. So that concludes the presentation. I know some of that information was hard to hear, but I think we have to take this warning really seriously. AI is changing our world by the minute as well, and those most impacted are going to be our kids. So I just thank you for listening, thank you for being here, and then I just want to give a shout out to Cindy and Cindy at the table. You can sign up for our Substack here in the QR code, or go to the table and sign up. And then we have a great Tea Party book special tonight. It's half price, or less than half price. I don't know. One of our board members has written some amazing children's books, and they're so great. They're just $10 a piece, I think, or the whole set for $50. Is that right? Wow. Yeah. So if you got some grandbabies, they're wonderful books. So that's it. Thank you for listening, and if we have time for questions, I'll be happy to try.
So this slideshow is available on your website. That's cpleducation.com.
It is not yet, but I will get it. I'm going to get it recorded. Yes.
But or possibly on this Substack.
Yes. Yeah. We'll post it on both, and I'll let Mary know when it's available.
All right. Thanks.
Talk about Taylor Swine though, because Taylor's owner, Marge Holston, is here.
Well, I think the owner should talk about Taylor Swine, because that, I mean, bless, God rest her soul, right? She is no longer with us. Is that right, Marge? Do you want to say something?
Allergies. I love animals, so we got a pet pig. Taylor Swine lived to be almost 14, and it turned out she was very popular at parades. We would support somebody with a little card. She felt very safe in her card, and it would say, Senator Lucero cuts the pork, or whatever. The first parade we did, we said, no, I'm sorry, I have it wrong. We said cuts the pork, and I did that with Michelle Bachman, and everybody's like, she's gonna hurt the pigs. So yes, they stopped the pork, which wasn't accurate. But Taylor did probably close to 300 parades all over the state. And she made her difference. Now I'm retired.
That was very cool.
One more story. So I had a board, I sponsored the Child Protection Week, had a board meeting at my house, and Barb Anderson, the author of all the books, was like, you have a pig? I'm going to write a book about your pig. So that was Barb's first book, and she has wonderful books.
She does. Super talented. Any other questions? Oh, sure.
Do you have any data on audiobooks reading?
Oh, that's a good question. I do not have any personal data on that, but from what I have gathered from folks, audio books are not as bad as the screen. There's just something with the screen when you're just sitting still and your eyes are just going like this back and forth. When you're audio, you're listening and you're thinking, and you can go back and rewind, and you can go back and kind of do some study on some stuff. But that's a good question. I should actually look into that a little bit more. But I think there's another thing here too that I think people, I want to just briefly touch on this. So I've been listening, I don't listen to Rogan a lot, sometimes, but he had a really good guest on who was talking about AI. He's a Silicon Valley guy, and they were all, I mean, it was all upside to AI. But the thing that they missed is that they're talking about people like us using AI. We already know how to read, we know how to think. You know, our brains have been, we grew up old school. But what they were not talking about little kids with AI who don't know how to read, who are already at a learning deficit and stuff like that. I think that's a subject that really needs to be fleshed out a lot more, and I think all the people that are like pro AI are missing that one a lot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my son-in-law and I were talking last night. We both do a lot of reading. He does a lot of audiobooks, and he says the one thing that he doesn't like about an audiobook is you can't put yourself into it. You can't distinguish how a character sounds or sometimes understand the meaning because you can't conjugate it a certain way.
No, that's actually a really good point, because all of a sudden you have a voice that's been assigned to it. Because so when you're reading literature, you're imagining the scene that they're painting for you with words. and the voices and what their character might look like. So that is, again, that's why it's activating so many more areas of the brain. It's just because it's creative. It's very creative. Yes.
Recently, I have heard that 3 southern states in the United States have moved from virtually the bottom of student achievement to the top of student achievement through the application of phonics.
Yes. That's correct. Yes.
Might
So,
wanna
I don't know if
repeat
you all
that.
heard that, but the statement was that 3 schools that historically had been like way behind academically for decades are suddenly, they're actually, Mississippi's one of them, and they're ahead of us. Mississippi is kind of spanking
Mississippi,
Minnesota right
Alabama,
now.
Louisiana.
Yeah, and because they went back to phonics, they went old school with phonics, and it's showed up quickly in their reading scores too.
Is this a topic that you'd like to revisit again in the future?
Yes,
All of this?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Child Protection League just has such a slew of wonderful, wonderful people with so much knowledge. So we'll invite them back more soon than later. How's that? Bonnie, I want to thank you so much. You did great. That was superb. I really wanted to do something a little bit different here this month, and I thought that might be kind of an interesting topic. I found it fascinating. We've got just a couple updates. I want to bring up Jodi, LaLiberty from Senate District 36. They've got a wonderful picnic event that's coming up. And are you comfortable standing down there, or do you want to come up here?
Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Mary. I mean, I've told her this in private before, but I want to publicly just recognize her, acknowledge her for her tenacity, her perseverance, her loyalty to this party, and all the wonderful things she continues to do.
Amen.
She's amazing, right? I'm Jodi LaLiberty. I'm a vice chair of SD 36. I'm the chair of the events committee. Thank you, Patty Bradway, for appointing me to that. It's great. So I'm here tonight to personally invite you. I would love for you to come to our America 250 Patriot picnic on June 25th. That's a Thursday at Rabine Barn in Lino Lakes. We are thrilled. You don't want, this is a not to be missed event. Not only are we going to have great food, we're going to have live music, bluegrass. We're going to have llamas, Pedro and Paco. You can get your picture taken with them. We're going to have yard games, a bake sale, a silent auction. We're going to have my favorite, line dancing. So dust off your cowboy boots. And we're also going to have a dunk tank. So we're looking for volunteers to be dunked. So let me know if you want to do that. And then just one final note. I recently got back from a trip to Williamsburg, Virginia, Jamestown, Yorktown, where our great country began. And I had the privilege of walking on the battlefields where our ancestors shed their blood for us. It was very, very moving. So we all of us here, are here for such a time as this. So let's bring unity to our community. Please come to the picnic. Grab me, I got invites.
And Vicki Ernst with the Conservative American PAC has an event coming up, and these are always great. Yes, yes, yes.
Thanks, Mary. And Mary, I don't think you've missed one of our events ever, so thank you. I don't remember which one it is, but I think this is like our 19th or 20th event for the Hog Roast. 18th. Leave it to Frank to always correct me. We are having, it's a hog roast dinner, so it's at the American Legion in Chanhassen, and we'll have, of course, the pork sandwiches with the sides and so on and so forth. One of the highlights of this, we have 2 main speakers. One of them is Lonnie Leitner with American Majority that's going to be coming, and like everyone has said, this is our year to win, and he's going to tell us how to do it. And then, and by the way, I have these flyers on the tables as well. And then a friend of mine, attorney Gregory Joseph, is going to be there, and he's going to deliver exclusive Derek Chauvin case updates.
He said it's going to be very revealing. There are unknown, unpublicized details that people don't know about that he's going to come and talk about. And then, of course, we're going to have our endorsed candidates there. They've all been invited, and so far we've had 4 out of 5 that have committed to being there. So we hope you can make it. It's always a fun time, and we'd love to see all of you there. Thank you.
It's really good.
I'm going to ask Alan, Shen, and Travis Ekbom to start making your way up here. Come on up to the front. How many have you been seen the movie, the documentary that Liz Collin just has out called Minnesota Mayo? It's about Tim Qualls. It's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, get Travis in here. Alan Shen is running for State House Rep in 40B. He worked with Alpha News on an investigation into a possible foreign government spy network operating in Minnesota, and he's interviewed in this documentary. So I thought, you know, we don't meet in July, so the first Thursday in July, don't come here. We won't be here. But the first Thursday in August is August 6th. I thought we should have Travis, who's the president of the MNUSA 250 movement here, and have Alan with his expertise on what Mao did to that culture and all the corresponding pieces of what's evolving in Minnesota via Tim Qualls. I want these two to present in August. Wouldn't that be good? Yeah. Come on up and just tell us just briefly what you're going to be chatting about.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mary. My name is Travis with MNUSA 250. I'm sure most of you recognize me or know me by now. Yeah, so Alan and I were actually just talking earlier today about what we could speak about in August. And he's going to share a little bit about the history of Maoism in China. And I'm going to then tie that into what we've seen go on in Minnesota, specifically with the corruption and failure of our schools here. We've got a great presentation planned for that. So.
Good. And just let me know the title and I'll get that out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll discuss that, and it's going to be a great joint presentation. So come for the double header or the 2-picture deal. So yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Alan, running for 40B, that's the House District of Roseville and Schwarze. So again, for today, I'll just actually promote the movie I've been working with Alpha News. It's called Minnesota Mayo. Should be online by now, because they were online by 7. So it's a really nice movie, because we actually, well, we didn't show this, but based on my investigation with Alpha News, with all the spy networks from CCP, we actually think, at least I actually think, Tim Qualls works for Beijing and not here. But then the movie actually shows about the details how Tim Qualls actually used Mao's Red Little Book to do all his operations here. Because a lot of the things Mao did, like erasing history, erasing identity, brainwashing the children, all that stuff, and including the Red Guards. So all his tactics have been based off that Mao's Red Little Book. But I'll share a little bit about the latest espionage effort in Minnesota. So in May, there's this Chinese state-run or state-supported organization that we deem as a spy network. So they put up a dance show in Edina High School. So it's in Edina, in their performing arts building. Then they did this dance called the Big River Dance. So you would say, hey, it's a culture, history dance. But they used the music for that dance. It's not a traditional Chinese music. It's actually from the CCP's 1956 movie called the Shanganling Hills Battle, which is their version of the Pork Chop Hill. So they played this movie, And there's a theme song. That song is what they use for the dance in Edina. So pretty much if you watch the movie, I mean, why would you? But it shows American soldiers being stupid and bad and evil and all that stuff. And then in the song, of course, they did not sing the song, the words, but they play the music. If you go YouTube search it, pretty much the lyrics says, if our friends come from North Korea, we greet them with great wine. If the American invaders come, we'll greet them with gunfires. So they played that music in Edina and making the Americans applaud for it, and I can bet that they'll be laughing about it. So stuff like that happens. So that's why we have to keep exposing it. Clearly, that was a direction from Beijing. It's not from here. So, but then we're still doing more. There should be more coming up.
Yeah, good. Well, good. I'm glad that you guys agreed to do this. I think we should. I mean, look at the talent and all the smart people we've got amongst ourselves. And
I was really happy to see you in this documentary. It's a very, very good documentary, I think. So it's called Minnesota Mayo. There's quite a few showings of it right now. So try to catch it if you can. Okay? Is there any other candidate or anybody that wants to say something real quickly here? Or? Well, let's go celebrate our 250th birthday of our country. Please get involved with a candidate or two. They need your help beginning now. We will win eventually. You know, it's just the law of nature that eventually things reverse the trajectory that it's on. And I hope that we all see it in our lifetime, and I think we are. So please, just be safe, have fun, and we will see you in August. Thank you.